The transport ship touched down on Varath 7 with a heavy thud that shook the landing platform. Taeyang Kim stepped off the ramp and immediately felt the planet's gravity pull at him. It was stronger than Earth's, enough to make his legs work harder with each step. He adjusted the strap on his military pack and looked around at the base that would be his home for the next year. The base was massive. Towers of metal and glass stretched toward the purple sky. Alien soldiers moved in groups across the grounds, their forms so different from anything on Earth that Taeyang had to remind himself not to stare. Some walked on 4 legs, their bodies covered in what looked like natural armor. Others towered above him, their crystalline skin catching the light of the twin suns overhead. A few had multiple arms, carrying equipment that would take 3 humans to lift. Taeyang was the only human on the platform, the only human on the entire base, according to his briefing. A sharp clicking sound made him turn. A creature approached him, walking on 2 powerful legs. Its body was covered in dark green plates that shifted as it moved. Multiple eyes sat on a triangular head, and its mouthparts clicked together as it spoke through a translator device on its chest. "You are the human. Corporal Kim." The voice from the translator was flat and emotionless. "I am Commander Yara. Follow me." Taeyang saluted and fell into step behind the commander. He had to walk quickly to keep up. Yara moved with the efficiency of someone who had never wasted a motion in their life. Other soldiers stopped to watch as they passed. Taeyang heard the whispers, even though he couldn't understand the languages. They reached a large building near the center of the base. Inside, the corridors were wide and tall, built for beings much larger than humans. Taeyang felt small. He had always been average height on Earth, but here he was dwarfed by almost everything. Yara led him to a briefing room where 4 other soldiers waited. They turned to look at him, and Taeyang saw surprise on their alien faces. Or at least, he thought it was surprise. Reading alien expressions was something he was still learning. "This is Squad Delta," Yara said. "Your unit. Keth is your squad leader." One of the tall, crystalline beings stepped forward. Keth stood at least 8 feet tall, his body made of what looked like living glass that glowed with a soft blue light. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes. "A human," Keth looked Taeyang up and down. "We were told to expect a specialist. What is your specialty?" "Infantry, sir. Standard combat training. Some experience with heavy equipment." A massive 4-armed creature laughed. The sound was deep enough to vibrate in Taeyang's chest. "Heavy equipment? By human standards, perhaps. I am Vorn. What can you lift? Little human?" Taeyang kept his face neutral. "Enough to do my job, sir. We shall see." This came from a smaller soldier, similar in build to Commander Yara, but with red and black coloring. "I am Sika. I give you 3 days before you request transfer to support duties." "Humans are not built for frontline combat." Yara's translator clicked. "You will train together. You will fight together. The human stays with Delta Squad." "Understood?" The squad acknowledged the order. But Taeyang could see the doubt in their body language. He had expected this. Humans were new to the Galactic Coalition. Most species saw them as weak, slow, and fragile. The reports were not wrong about human physical capabilities compared to most Coalition species. But the reports did not tell the whole story. The first week was difficult. The equipment issued to Coalition soldiers was too large for Taeyang. The pulse rifle felt like carrying a small tree. The armor plates did not fit his frame properly. During exercises, he finished last in every physical trial. When Vorn lifted a cargo container with 2 arms, Taeyang needed assistance from a loading machine. Sika made sure to comment every time. Perhaps the human should work in communications. Less lifting required. Vorn was less cruel but just as doubtful. "No offense intended, Taeyang. But your species seems poorly designed for warfare. Thin skin, single heart, weak bones. How did you survive long enough to reach space?" Taeyang usually just nodded and continued his work. At night, while the others recharged or rested in their preferred environments. He studied. He read everything he could about Vareth 7's wildlife, its geology, its weather patterns. He reviewed files on Krovan combat tactics, Velnar shield formations, Thule strength techniques. He watched videos of his squad's previous missions, analyzing how they moved and fought. He also trained. The base gym was empty at night. Taeyang worked with the weights, not trying to match alien strength but building his own. He practiced movements, techniques he had learned back on Earth, deadlifts, carries. His old strongman training from before he joined the military. The other soldiers did not understand human exercise. They relied on their natural strength, but Taeyang knew that humans had something different. Humans could adapt, humans could endure. 3 weeks into his assignment, the squad received their mission briefing. Commander Yara displayed a holographic map of the Blackstone Canyons, a region 50 kilometers from the base. Mining operations are expanding into Sector 7, Yara explained. Your squad will provide security. The canyons contain valuable minerals, but also dangerous wildlife. You will escort the miners and protect the equipment. Standard patrol duration is 6 weeks. Keth studied the map. What level of wildlife threats? Class 3 megafauna. Large predators. Nothing the war mechs cannot handle. Yara's eyes turned to Taeyang. The human will patrol on foot. Standard mech harnesses do not fit his physiology. Sika clicked in what Taeyang had learned was amusement. Wonderful. We will spend half our time protecting our own squad member. I can handle myself, Taeyang said quietly. Can you? Vorn leaned forward. Have you ever faced a canyon predator? Human? They grow as large as your earth elephants. Their hide is thick enough to stop small arms fire. What will you do when one charges you? Adapt, Taeyang said. It's what humans do best. The squad departed 2 days later. 3 war mechs strode across the rocky terrain, their metal feet crushing stone with each step. Taeyang rode in a transport vehicle with the mining equipment, watching the mechs move. They were impressive machines, 15 feet tall, armed with plasma cannons and reinforced armor. Inside their cockpits, Keth, Vorn, and Sika piloted the mechs with practiced skill. The Blackstone Canyons earned their name. The rock walls were dark as midnight, shot through with veins of crystal that glowed in the darkness. The canyons twisted and turned, some passages wide enough for the mechs to walk side by side, others so narrow the machines had to move, single file. They established a base camp near the mining site. Taeyang helped set up the perimeter sensors and communication arrays. He was good at this work, careful and precise. The miners appreciated his help. They were a different species, small and quick, with 6 arms that could manipulate tools with incredible dexterity. The first week passed without incident. The squad fell into a routine. The mechs patrolled the canyon rim, while Taeyang walked the lower paths, checking sensors and watching for movement. He saw wildlife, small creatures that scattered at his approach, flying things that nested in the canyon walls. Nothing threatening, but Taeyang noticed something the others did not. The ground vibrated sometimes, a deep tremor that came from below. He mentioned it to Keth during one evening briefing. Seismic activity, Keth said. The planet has an active core. Tremors are normal here. These feel different, Taeyang said. More rhythmic, like something moving underground. Sika clicked in annoyance. The human is nervous. Perhaps he should return to base. Sika, I am just reporting what I observe, Taeyang said calmly. You can verify with the sensors. Vorn checked the data. The sensors show nothing unusual. Rock shifts, magma flows, normal geological activity. Taeyang did not argue further, but he trusted his instincts. Something was down there in the dark, beneath the canyons. Something big. He increased his patrols, paying close attention to the ground, looking for signs. Disturbed rock, scratch marks on the canyon walls. The smell of something organic in the air. On the 21st day, he found what he was looking for. A hole in the canyon floor, perfectly round, wide enough to drive a vehicle through. The edges were smooth, worn by something passing through repeatedly. Around the hole, the rock was scored with deep gouges. Taeyang knelt and examined them. Claw marks, or teeth marks. Something very large had been here. He activated his comm. "Keth, I have something you need to see." The squad leader's voice came back immediately. "Coordinates?" "Coordinates?" Taeyang sent his location. Within minutes, Keth's mech appeared at the canyon rim above him. The crystalline being looked down at the hole. "Burrow," Keth said. "Old one. By the weathering. Probably abandoned. Or still in use," Taeyang said. "The tremors I reported. I think something lives down there. Something that comes up to hunt." Keth was silent for a moment. Then his voice came over the comm again, this time addressing the whole squad. "All units. Increase alert status. Stay clear of burrow openings. The human may be correct. Something is using these tunnels." Taeyang felt a small measure of satisfaction. They were starting to listen to him. Not trust him yet, but listen. It was a beginning. That night, Taeyang sat at the edge of camp, looking out at the dark canyons. The twin moons were rising, casting strange shadows across the landscape. He thought about his training, his preparation. He thought about why he had joined the coalition military in the first place. His grandfather's words came back to him. "Strength is not about how much you can lift when everything is easy. It is about what you refuse to put down when everything is hard." Taeyang did not know what was coming. But he knew he would be ready. He had to be. He was representing all of humanity here, whether he wanted that responsibility or not. Every action he took, every choice he made, would shape how these aliens saw his entire species. He would not fail. He would not quit. He would show them what humans could do. In the darkness of the canyon below, something moved. Something ancient and hungry, disturbed by the mining, by the vibrations of the mechs walking above its lair. It was waking up, and it was not happy. The earthquake hit during the morning patrol on day 23. Taeyang was checking a sensor array when the ground started shaking. Not the small tremors he had felt before. This was violent, throwing him to his knees. Rocks tumbled down the canyon walls. The sound was like thunder rolling through the earth itself. "All units report." Keth's voice crackled over the comm. "Mech 1 secure," Forn answered. "No damage. Mech 2 operational." Sika confirmed. "Taeyang here. I am fine. The sensor array is damaged, but I can repair it." He grabbed onto a rock outcropping as another tremor shook the ground. Dust rose in clouds around him, making it hard to see. The shaking lasted for 30 seconds. Then it stopped as suddenly as it started. Taeyang got to his feet and looked around. The canyon had changed. A section of the wall had collapsed, revealing a dark opening behind it. More burrow entrances had appeared in the canyon floor. The rock split open like cracked eggshells. "Keth, we have a problem." The earthquake opened up multiple burrows. "I count at least 6 new openings in my sector." "Confirmed. I see more from my position." Keth's mech moved along the canyon rim, its sensors sweeping the area. "All units, return to base camp. We need to reassess." He never finished the sentence. The ground erupted 20 meters from Taeyang's position. Rock and dirt exploded upward as something massive burst from below. Taeyang threw himself behind a boulder as debris rained down around him. When the dust cleared, he saw it. The creature was enormous, easily 40 feet from head to tail. Its body was covered in overlapping plates of armor that looked like black stone. 6 legs, each as thick as tree trunks, ending in claws that could tear through rock. The head was wedge-shaped, built for digging, with massive mandibles that opened and closed with a sound like metal grinding on metal. "Skorvax," Vorn's voice was tight with tension. Alpha. Class by the size. All units. Engage. The creature's multiple eyes swept the canyon, looking for the source of the vibrations that had disturbed its sleep. It spotted Keth's mech on the rim and let out a roar that made Taeyong's ears ring even through his helmet. Then, it charged. The Skorvax moved with terrifying speed for something so large. Its legs churned the ground, throwing up rocks and dirt. Keth opened fire with his mech's plasma cannons. Blue bolts of superheated energy slammed into the creature's armor. The impacts left scorched marks, but did not penetrate. The Skorvax's armor was too thick, evolved over millions of years to withstand the canyon's harsh environment. Energy weapons, ineffective. Keth maneuvered his mech backward, trying to maintain distance. Switching to kinetic rounds. Own 4. Vorn's mech came from the side, its 4 arms wielding heavy cannons. Solid projectiles hammered into the Skorvax's flank. Some ricocheted off the armor plates. A few found gaps, drawing dark fluid that might have been blood. The creature roared again and changed direction, focusing on this new threat. Taeyong ran toward the base camp. He needed better weapons. His standard rifle would be useless against that thing. But as he ran, he watched the fight. He saw how the Skorvax moved, how it attacked. It was not just a mindless predator. It was smart, using its armored head to deflect shots while positioning its body to protect vulnerable spots. Sika's mech joined the fight, adding more firepower. 3 war mechs against 1 creature. It should have been enough. The mechs were military-grade combat machines, designed to handle the worst threats in Coalition space. But the Skorvax was apex predator of Vareth 7, and it had evolved to survive much worse than plasma fire. The creature feinted toward Sika, then spun with surprising agility and charged Vorn. The massive Thule pilot tried to dodge, but the Skorvax was faster. It slammed into the mech with the force of a freight train. Metal screamed, warning alarms blared. The mech staggered backward, trying to stay upright. That was when the Skorvax's mandibles closed around the mech's torso. Taeyong heard the sound from 100 meters away. Metal crushing. The reinforced titanium alloy armor that could withstand direct hits from artillery was folding like paper under the creature's bite force. Vorn shouted something in his own language. The mech's arms flailed, trying to push the creature away, but the Skorvax was too strong. Eject! Eject now! Vorn hit the emergency release. The cockpit explosive bolts fired, and the pilot's compartment rocketed upward, carrying the Thule to safety. He landed 50 meters away, rolling to absorb the impact. The Skorvax did not pursue him. It was focused on the mech, biting deeper, crushing the machine's core systems. Then it started dragging the mech toward the nearest burrow entrance. It is taking the mech! Sika moved to intercept, but the creature's armored tail whipped around, catching the smaller mech in the legs. Sika's machine toppled, crashing onto its side. The pilot was unhurt but temporarily out of the fight. Keth fired everything he had. Plasma, kinetics, even the mech's experimental laser system. Some shots hit the Skorvax. Most did not matter. The creature kept moving, pulling the destroyed mech toward the hole in the ground. Toward its lair. Commander Yara. This is Keth. We have a situation. Skorvax Alpha has destroyed Mech 2 and is attempting to drag it underground. Requesting immediate support. Yara's response came back after a few seconds. Negative. Air support is 40 minutes out. The mech's data cores contain classified information. Cannot allow capture. Destroy the mech. The Skorvax is using it as a shield. We cannot get a clear shot without hitting the machine's reactor. The explosion would collapse half the canyon. Then let it go. Fall back to defensive positions. Protect the personnel and mining equipment. The mech is a loss. Taeyong heard the exchange as he reached the equipment storage. He grabbed a thermal charge, the kind used for controlled demolitions. Not enough to hurt the Skorvax, but maybe enough to distract it. He did not know what he was planning. He just knew that Mech contained technology that could not fall into that burrow. And more than that, he knew Vorn had piloted that machine. The Thule had mocked him, yes, but he was still squad. Still family in the way that soldiers became family. He ran back toward the fight. The Skorvax was almost at the burrow entrance, half the mech already disappearing into the darkness. Keth's mech stood at a distance, weapons powered down, following orders, falling back. Taeyang did not have orders. No one expected the human to do anything useful in this situation. No one was watching what he did. He was beneath notice, too small and weak to matter in a fight between giants. That was his advantage. He had learned that in his first weeks here. When you are underestimated, when no one expects anything from you, you can do the unexpected. He reached the burrow entrance just as the Skorvax finished dragging the mech to the edge. The creature was positioning itself to descend, to pull its prize into the safety of its underground lair. Up close, it was even more massive than Taeyang had thought. Each of its armor plates was the size of a car door. The mandibles that had crushed the mech could bite him in half without noticing. Taeyang looked at the creature. He looked at the mech, half crushed but still containing vital systems. He looked at the burrow, at the darkness below where the Skorvax would disappear. He thought about his grandfather's words, about strength and about not putting down what matters. He thought about the reports that said humans were too weak for combat. He thought about every dismissive comment, every doubt, every assumption that he did not belong here. Then he set down his rifle and his equipment pack. He positioned himself at the edge of the burrow, where the creature's body curved as it began to descend. Between two of its massive armor plates, there was a gap, a space where he could get his hands underneath. Taeyang, what are you doing? Keth's voice in his calm. The squad leader had noticed him. Something stupid, Taeyang answered. Or something necessary. Not sure which yet. He bent his knees. He set his feet in the rocky ground. He reached up and gripped the underside of the Skorvax's carapace with both hands. He could feel the creature's muscles moving under its shell, could feel the heat of its body. He took a breath. Then he began to lift. The Skorvax did not notice at first. Taeyang was too small. His initial effort too insignificant compared to the creature's mass. But Taeyang had lifted heavy things before. He knew about leverage, about body position, about recruiting every muscle fiber. He knew about the human body's ability to access emergency strength when needed. He lifted with his legs, with his back, with every part of his body working together. He felt something tear in his shoulder, felt his knees scream in protest. His vision started to go red at the edges. But he kept lifting. The Skorvax felt it then. Felt the strange sensation of being moved, of being lifted by something that should not be able to move it. The creature had never experienced this. Nothing on Vareth 7 could lift it. Nothing had ever tried. It released the mech and thrashed, trying to understand what was happening. And in that moment of confusion, Taeyang gave everything he had left. He did not try to carry the creature. He just pushed up and to the side, using its own mass against it, disrupting its balance for just 1 second. 1 second was enough. The Skorvax's rear legs slipped on the burrow edge. Its front legs scrambled for purchase. It roared, a sound of surprise and anger. Then it made a choice, the choice any predator makes when threatened. It chose survival over the prize. It let go of the mech completely and descended rapidly into its burrow. Disappearing into the darkness to regroup, Taeyang collapsed. Every muscle in his body was torn. His hands were bleeding where the rough armor had cut through his gloves. He could not feel his legs. His vision was fading, but he heard Keth's voice, heard running footsteps, heard Vorn's deep rumble saying something in a tone Taeyang had never heard from the Thule before. Respect. He was hearing respect. Then everything went black. Taeyang woke up in the medical bay. The ceiling was white and too bright. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through every muscle in his body. It felt like he had been hit by a truck. Several trucks. All at once. Do not move. The voice was female, human, speaking Korean. You have torn muscles in places I did not know. Humans could tear muscles. Taeyang turned his head slowly. A woman in medical uniform stood beside his bed, checking displays on a monitor. She was Korean like him, maybe 30 years old, with tired eyes that had seen too many injuries. Dr. Hana Choi, she said. I am the civilian medical contractor for this base. The only other human here. Until you arrived. You have been unconscious. For 18 hours. The squad? Taeyang's voice was rough. Did everyone survived. The Skorvax retreated after you. After what you did. Keth deployed seismic charges and collapsed several burrow entrances. The creature has not been seen since. Hana adjusted something on the monitor. You want to explain to me how you lifted approximately 20 tons of alien predator? I did not lift it. Not really. I just shifted it. Got under it enough to throw off its balance. Taeyang, I have been reviewing the combat footage. All the mechs have recording systems. I watched you. You performed a deadlift that should have snapped your spine. The compression forces on your vertebrae should have killed you instantly. Taeyang closed his eyes. He remembered the moment. Remembered the decision to try something impossible. How bad is the damage? Multiple muscle tears in your legs, back, and shoulders. Severe strain in your tendons. Microfractures in your leg bones. Your hands will heal, but there will be scars. You pushed your body past every safety limit. She paused. You should be dead. By any reasonable medical standard, what you did was fatal. But I am not dead. No, and that is what fascinates me. Hana pulled up a holographic display showing scans of his body. Human physiology has some unique traits. Elastic tendons that can store and release energy. A cardiovascular system optimized for endurance. The ability to recruit nearly 100% of muscle fibers during adrenaline response. Most species can only access 60 to 70% of their strength at any given time. Their bodies protect them from self-injury. Humans do not have that protection, Taeyang said quietly. We can hurt ourselves if we push too hard. Exactly. Your ancestors evolved to persistence hunt. To keep going when every other predator had given up. To push through pain and exhaustion. Because stopping meant death. That trait is still in your genetics. You accessed it yesterday. Hana sat down in the chair beside his bed. You know the base is in chaos. Yes. No one can explain how you did what you did. The xenobiologists want to study you. Commander Yara has been reviewing the footage constantly. Your squad has not left the medical bay waiting room. They are here? They have been here since you arrived. Keth comes in every hour to check on you. Vorn brought you some kind of Thule healing crystal, which of course does nothing for human biology. But the gesture was kind. Even Sika stopped making yokes. Taeyang tried to process this. His squad, waiting for him, caring about him. Can I see them? Not yet. You need rest, but I will tell them you are awake. Hana stood. Taeyang, what you did will change things. For humans in the coalition. For how other species see us. You understand that, yes? He understood. He had just wanted to help his squad. But actions had consequences. Symbols had power. Whether he wanted it or not, he had become a symbol of something. Over the next 3 days, Taeyang healed faster than Hana expected, but slower than he wanted. The medical bay had devices that could speed tissue repair. But human biology did not always respond well to alien technology. His body healed the old-fashioned way. Through rest and time, the visitors came in carefully controlled groups. First Commander Yara, who stood at attention beside his bed and said things about duty and courage that made Taeyang uncomfortable. Then Keth, who spoke in his wind chime voice about misjudging human capability. Vorn came with the healing crystal, which glowed with soft light and did make Taeyang feel better, though probably from psychological rather than biological effects. Sika was last. The Krovan warrior clicked nervously. Mandibles moving in what Taeyang had learned meant uncertainty. I was wrong about you, Sika said simply. I judged based on incomplete data. This is a failure in a warrior. I apologize. Accepted, Taeyang said. You were not wrong about the data. Humans are weaker in most measurable ways. You just measured the wrong things. What should we measure? Taeyang thought about it. Measure what we do when the situation is impossible. That is where humans are different. On the fourth day, scientists arrived. Xenobiologists from 3 different species, all wanting to understand the human who had lifted a Scorvax. They ran tests, took measurements, asked endless questions. Taeyang answered patiently, though he was not sure he could explain what he did not fully understand himself. Dr. Jiwon Park was among them. A human scientist who had been studying coalition species for years. She was older, maybe 50, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. The others are confused, she told Taeyang during one session. They keep trying to find some hidden strength in your muscles, some trick of biology they missed. But that is not what happened, is it? What do you think happened? I think you used the one advantage humans have that most species lack. Mental override of physical limits. Jiwon pulled up comparison charts. Most intelligent species evolved safety protocols in their nervous systems. Krovan cannot access more than 70% of their muscle strength because their brains prevent it, protecting them from self-injury. Velnar have similar limits. Thule can push to 80%, but only in short bursts. And humans? Humans can hit 100%. Our ancestors needed to. A persistence hunter chasing prey for hours cannot afford to hold back energy reserves. A human fighting a predator cannot stop at 90% effort. So our brains learn to shut off the safety limits when necessary. Adrenaline, fear, desperate need. These can unlock total muscle recruitment. At a cost, Taeyang said, looking at his bandaged hands. Yes, at a cost. You proved that. But you also proved that humans can do things that other species consider physically impossible, not because we are stronger, but because we are willing to break ourselves to succeed. The conversation spread through the base. Scientists debated the implications. Military analysts reviewed combat doctrine. The footage of Taeyang's lift became required viewing in briefing rooms. Everyone had an opinion about what it meant. On day 7, Hana cleared Taeyang for light duty. He could walk, though his legs protested. His hands could grip things, though his fingers were stiff. He went to the squad's common area and found them waiting. They had questions. So many questions. How did he know he could lift the Scorvax? He did not know. He just tried. What was he thinking during the lift? He was not thinking. He was just doing. Would he do it again? If necessary, yes. Vorn asked the question that mattered most. Why did you risk your life for a machine? It was just equipment. Not worth dying for. Taeyang looked at the massive Thule warrior. It was your machine. Your mech. You had piloted it. I could not let it be taken while I stood by and did nothing. That is not who I am. That is not who humans are. The squad was silent. Then Keth spoke. We have trained together for 1 month. In that time, I have learned more about humans than all the reports and briefings taught me. I thought I understood your species' limitations. I was wrong. I thought I understood your place in combat situations. I was wrong about that too. We have, so what do you understand now? Taeyang asked. That humans measure strength differently than we do. That your limits are not where we thought they were. That having you in this squad makes us stronger. not weaker. Sika clicked in agreement. I recommend we adjust our tactical doctrine. The human should not be relegated to support roles. He should be positioned where his unique capabilities are most valuable. Which is where? Vorn rumbled. Wherever the situation seems impossible, Sika said. Humans appear to specialize in those scenarios. The squad implemented changes over the next week. They trained together differently, accounting for Taeyang's abilities and limitations. They learned about human endurance, about pain tolerance, about the mental techniques humans use to push past exhaustion. In exchange, Taeyang learned alien combat styles, how to work alongside mech units, how to read the battlefield through coalition tactical systems. The mining operation resumed with increased security. The Scorvax did not return, though sensors sometimes detected movement in the deep tunnels. The squad completed their mission rotation, without further incident. But everything had changed. Word spread through the coalition military. The human who lifted the creature. The impossible feat. The new understanding of human capability. On their last day at the Blackstone Canyons, Taeyang stood at the edge of the burrow, where he had made his choice. Keth joined him, the Velnar's crystalline form reflecting the setting suns. What are you thinking about? Keth asked. About how scared I was, Taeyang admitted. For those few seconds under the Scorvax, I was more terrified than I have ever been. I thought I would die. But you lifted anyway. I lifted anyway, because the alternative was watching my squad lose something important while I did nothing. I could not live with that choice. Keth's light pulsed thoughtfully. This is what makes humans dangerous, I think. Not your strength or your endurance. Your inability to accept failure when others are counting on you. Most species have limits they will not cross, lines they will not step over. Humans have those lines too. But you will erase them if something important enough is on the other side. Is that good or bad? I do not know yet. But I am glad you are on our side. They stood together as the suns set over the canyons. Somewhere below, in the darkness, the Scorvax rested in its lair. It would remember the small creature that had lifted it, the impossible thing that should not have happened. It would be more cautious next time it emerged. And above, in the fading light, a human and an alien stood as squad members, not just tolerating each other, but understanding each other. It was a small thing in the vast scope of the galaxy, but small things sometimes changed everything. Taeyang did not know it yet, but his choice that day would ripple outward. It would change how humans were seen, how they were utilized, how they were respected. The coalition had thought it understood Earth's people. It had measured their strength, cataloged their limitations, assigned them to roles that matched their capabilities. But the coalition had measured wrong, and now everyone was starting to realize it. The briefing room at Coalition Military Command was packed. Representatives from 12 species sat around a circular table, all watching the same footage for the 15th time. The holographic display showed Taeyang Kim, human, lifting a Scorvax Alpha. The timestamp in the corner marked the exact moment human doctrine changed forever. Admiral Thos, a Velnar who commanded the sector fleet, paused the footage at the moment of maximum lift. Taeyang's body was bent, every muscle visible even through his combat suit, arms gripping the underside of the massive creature. Impossible, said Colonel Vrek, a Thule. The mass calculations show that creature at approximately 18 to 20 tons. A human masses may be 70 to 80 kilograms. The strength ratio is absurd. Rekka of Rek. Dr. Jiwon Park stood from her seat. She was the only human in the room and had been called specifically to explain what everyone was seeing. May I? Admiral Thos gestured permission. Jiwon walked to the display and zoomed in on Taeyang's body position. You are correct that the strength ratio seems impossible. Because you are measuring strength the way you measure it for your own species. maximum force generation in ideal conditions. But humans do not work that way. Watch his position. He is not trying to curl the creature or military press it. He is using his entire body as a lever system. Legs, hips, back, arms, all working as one unit. That still does not explain the forces involved, Vrek said. No, it does not. Which brings me to the second factor: human adrenaline response. Jiwon pulled up biological charts. When humans face extreme stress or danger, our adrenal glands release a hormone cocktail that temporarily removes our mental limits on muscle fiber recruitment. Most species can access 60 to 80% of their total muscle strength. Humans can briefly access 100%. That would cause severe injury, another officer said. It did. Corporal Kim tore multiple muscles, fractured bones, damaged tendons. His body paid the price for that moment of extreme effort. But he survived. And more importantly, he succeeded. That is the human trade-off. We can break our own bodies to accomplish what seems impossible. Admiral Thoss leaned forward. How many humans have this capability? All of them, sir. Every human has this emergency strength system. It evolved over millions of years. Our ancestors needed it to survive. Parents lifting debris off children. Hunters bringing down prey much larger than themselves. Warriors fighting when retreat meant death. The capability is genetic. The room fell silent. 12 species, all reconsidering what they thought they knew about humanity. There is more, Jiwon continued. Humans have other traits that your initial assessments classified as weaknesses, but may actually be advantages in specific situations. Our inefficient temperature regulation through sweating allows us to operate in extreme heat longer than most species. Our slower running speed is offset by our ability to maintain that speed for hours without rest. Our relatively weak bite force is compensated by tool use and problem solving. You measured us wrong, because you measured us against your own standards. Colonel Vrek studied the frozen image of Taeyang. What else can humans do that we have not accounted for? I have been researching that question for 3 months since the incident. Let me show you some examples. Jiwon pulled up case files. A human medic who performed surgery for 40 consecutive hours during a siege. Her hands steady when Krovan surgeons had to stop from exhaustion. A human engineer who repaired a ship's radiation-damaged core with minimal shielding. His body's DNA repair mechanisms handling doses that would have killed most species. A human negotiator who outweighted a Thule diplomat in a marathon bargaining session simply by refusing to sleep. Humans are persistent specialists, Jiwon explained. We are not the fastest, strongest, toughest, or smartest species in the coalition, but we are the species that does not quit. When other species reach their limit and stop, humans ignore the limit and keep going. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we break ourselves trying. But sometimes we accomplish what everyone else said was impossible. Admiral Thoss stood. This changes our entire approach to human integration. We have been assigning humans to support roles, communication, logistics, technical positions, safe positions where their physical limitations would not be a liability. With respect, sir, those limitations may not be as limiting as we thought, Jiwon said. I recommend a full review of human capabilities and a redesign of integration protocols. Humans should not be protected from danger. We should be deployed where our unique traits are most valuable. The meeting continued for 3 hours. Doctrine was questioned. Assumptions were challenged. New protocols were drafted. And through it all, the image of Taeyang Kim holding 20 tons of alien predator remained on the display. A reminder that the galaxy did not fully understand Earth's children yet. Back on Verath 7, Taeyang was unaware of the debates his actions had sparked. He had returned to regular duty as soon as Hana cleared him. The squad treated him differently now, not with the mockery of before, but not with excessive praise either. They treated him as an equal, as someone they trusted. The change was subtle but significant. Keth consulted him during tactical planning. Vorn asked his opinion on defensive positions. Sika included him in combat drills as a full participant, rather than someone to be protected. They were learning from him, and he was learning from them. One evening, the squad gathered in their common area. It was a rare moment of rest between missions. Vorn was maintaining his equipment, Sika was reviewing combat footage, and Keth was meditating in the way Velnar did, his crystalline body pulsing with slow light. "I have a question," Vorn said suddenly. "Taeyang, when you lifted the Skorvax, what were you thinking?" Taeyang looked up from the report he was reading. "I was not thinking. There was no time for thought. I saw what needed to happen, and I tried to make it happen. But you knew it might kill you." "Yes. So why do it?" Taeyang considered the question. "In my training on Earth, my instructor had a saying. He said that discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when you do not want to do it. Courage is doing what needs to be done, even when you are afraid to do it. I was very afraid, but the action still needed to happen, so I did it." Sika clicked thoughtfully. "This is common among humans? This willingness to act despite fear? I think so. We have many stories about it. Heroes who faced impossible odds. Ordinary people who did extraordinary things in moments of crisis. It is part of how we see ourselves." Keth's meditation ended, and his light brightened. "I have been researching human culture since the incident. Your species has an unusual relationship with physical limitations. You celebrate those who push past them. Athletes who break records. Explorers who climb impossible mountains. Scientists who work until they solve unsolvable problems. Other species have heroes, but human heroes often specifically involve doing what should not be possible. We like challenges," Taeyang admitted. "We like proving that we can do things others say we cannot." "This explains much," Keth said. "When I told you that humans were too weak for frontline combat, I was not trying to insult you. I was stating what seemed like an obvious fact based on measurable data. But to you, it was a challenge. Something to prove wrong." "Router," Taeyang smiled. "Maybe a little." Vorn's deep laugh rumbled through the room. "We made a mistake with you, human. We told you all the things you could not do. We should have known that would just make you determined to do them." The conversation shifted to other topics. But Taeyang thought about what Keth had said. Human heroes doing the impossible. Was that really what defined his species? Or was it simply that humans were too stubborn to accept limits without testing them first? 3 weeks later, Commander Yara called the squad to a briefing. When they arrived, they found Admiral Thos waiting with her. The presence of a fleet admiral on a training base meant something significant was happening. "Squad Delta," Thos began. "You have been selected for a new program. The Human Integration Initiative. Based on recent events, Coalition Command has determined that our approach to human soldiers requires revision." "Sergeant Kim," Taeyang blinked. "Sir, I am a corporal. You were a corporal. Your promotion came through this morning. Sergeant Kim, you will be leading a new unit. The first squad composed of mixed humans and coalition species, designed to handle missions that require persistence, adaptability, and the willingness to attempt what seems impossible." Taeyang stood straighter. "Sir, I am honored. But I have only been in the coalition military for 4 months. There are more experienced humans. Experience is not what we need," Yara interrupted. "We need someone who understands both human capabilities and how to work with alien species. Someone who has demonstrated both in combat. You are that someone." "Or." They work 1740. "War." Keth stepped forward. "Sir, I request transfer to this new unit. I wish to continue working with Sergeant Kim." Vorn and Sika immediately echoed the request. Admiral Thos's crystalline face showed what might have been approval. "Granted, Squad Delta will form the core of the new unit. Additional human soldiers are being transferred to Verath 7 as we speak. You will train them. Sergeant Kim, you will teach them what you have learned. and you will show the coalition what humans can really do. The meeting ended with new orders, new responsibilities, new challenges. As the squad left the briefing room, Vorn placed one of his massive hands on Taeyang's shoulder. "I was wrong about humans," the Thule said quietly. "I thought you were fragile things that needed protection. But you are not fragile. You are flexible. You bend under pressure instead of breaking. And when you do break, you heal and come back stronger." "That is a generous assessment," Taeyang said. "It is an accurate one. I have watched you, studied you. Humans are survivors. The galaxy has not seen the full measure of your species yet. But it will. And I think many will be surprised by what they learn." That night, Taeyang sat alone in his quarters, looking at the promotion notification on his datapad. Sergeant. Leader of a new unit. Responsible for proving human worth to the entire coalition. The weight of it was heavy, but he thought about his grandfather again. About strength being what you refuse to put down. This responsibility, this chance to change how humans were seen, was not something he could put down. It was not something he wanted to put down. He pulled up a message form and began writing to Dr. Hana Choi and Dr. Ji-won Park. If he was going to train humans to work alongside aliens, he would need their expertise. He would need to understand human biology better. He would need to know the limits so he could teach others how to push past them safely. The message sent, Taeyang stood and looked out his window at Verath 7's purple sky. Somewhere up there, the galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humans would do next, waiting to see if one soldier's impossible feat was a fluke or a preview of something larger. Taeyang intended to show them it was just the beginning. 6 months had changed everything. The training facility on Verath 7 had expanded to accommodate the Human Integration Initiative. Where once Taeyang had been the only human on the base, now there were 30 humans who had volunteered to prove what their species could do. Sergeant Taeyang Kim stood at the edge of the training field, watching the new recruits run through obstacle courses designed by Keth. The courses were brutal, combining elements from multiple species training programs. Climbing walls built for Thule strength. Endurance runs, measured by Krovan standards. Puzzle sections that tested Velnar problem-solving speed. The humans were not the best at any single element, but they were the only ones who could complete the entire course without stopping. "They are improving," Keth said, walking up beside him. The Velnar had become Taeyang's unofficial second-in-command, bridging the gap between human and alien training philosophies. "Private Minho is still struggling with the climbing wall," Taeyang observed. "His upper body strength is not where it needs to be. He does not quit, though. I have watched him attempt that wall 17 times today. 17 failures. But he keeps trying." Reckling Lime. "We have watched him too. We have Matter Woe. We have watched him attempt that wall." "That is very human," Taeyang said with a slight smile. "We are good at trying." Dr. Hana Choi approached from the medical station, datapad in hand. "You need to see this." The latest physical assessments. Taeyang took the pad and scrolled through the results. Heart rate recovery times. Muscle endurance metrics. Pain tolerance scores. The numbers were remarkable. Not because they showed superhuman abilities, but because they showed humans consistently performing at levels that the other species considered their maximum effort, but sustaining it for much longer periods. "Private Salmon ran for 4 hours yesterday," Hana said, "at a pace that would exhaust a Krovan in 30 minutes. She was not even in the top athletic tier on Earth. This is just what humans can do." "The coalition is noticing," Keth added. "Admiral Thoss was here last week. He spent 3 days observing your training methods. He wants to implement some human techniques in standard coalition military programs." Taeyang looked surprised. "Our techniques? What could we teach species that are stronger and faster than us? Persistence, mental discipline, pain management, the ability to keep functioning when conditions are terrible." Keth's crystalline form pulsed thoughtfully. "You remember what Dr. Ji-won said in her report?" That humans are specialists in impossible situations? The Coalition wants to learn how to create that specialist mindset. A shout from the training field drew their attention. Private Jiho had fallen from the climbing wall, landing hard on the safety mat. For a moment, he did not move. Then he stood, shook his head, and started climbing again. 17 attempts is nothing, Hana said quietly. That one will try 100 times if needed. 3 months earlier, the first joint mission had deployed. Squad Delta, now officially designated as Integration Unit 1, had been sent to a hostile mining colony that was under siege by raiders. The raiders had superior numbers and defensive positions. Standard Coalition response would have been orbital bombardment or a prolonged siege. Taeyang's unit did neither. They had approached through terrain the raiders considered impassable. Carried equipment the raiders did not think could be man-portable over that distance, and infiltrated the facility through maintenance tunnels too small for most species to navigate. The humans went first, securing positions, and then guiding the larger Thule and Velnar soldiers through the optimal routes. The mission succeeded with minimal casualties. The after-action report specifically noted that human soldiers had accomplished objectives deemed unlikely in the planning phase. Coalition Command had been forced to reconsider what unlikely meant when humans were involved. Since then, requests for human-integrated units had increased exponentially. Every sector commander wanted at least one squad. The problem was that there were not enough trained humans to meet demand. "We need to expand the program," Taeyang said, still watching the recruits. 30 humans is not enough. We should be training hundreds. Thousands, Keth corrected. If human capabilities match what we have observed, optimal force integration would place humans at approximately 15% of combat units. That is thousands of positions across Coalition space. Taeyang felt the weight of that number. Thousands of humans, all looking to his example, all following the path he had accidentally started by lifting a Scorvax that day in the Blackstone Canyons. "Do we have that many who want to join?" he asked. Hana pulled up recruitment data. "Applications from Earth have increased by 400% since your incident became public. Humans, like a challenge. Remember, you showed them that aliens thought we were weak. Now, everyone wants to prove the aliens wrong." That evening, Taeyang gathered the recruits for a briefing. It had become a daily tradition, a time to discuss not just tactics and techniques, but philosophy. The why behind the how. "Today, I want to talk about strength," he began. The 30 humans sat in rows, with Vorn, Sika, and Kaith standing at the back observing. "When you arrived here, you were tested. Physical assessments. Compared to Thul's strength, to Kroven's speed, to Velnar endurance. By those measurements, every one of you failed." Take Sai. Some of the recruits shifted uncomfortably. Private Salmon raised her hand. "Then why are we here, Sergeant?" "Because those measurements are incomplete. They measure what you can do in perfect conditions when you are fresh and motivated. But combat is not perfect conditions. Combat is exhaustion, fear, pain, confusion. Combat is being told something is impossible and having to do it anyway." Taeyang walked along the rows. "Humans evolve to excel when conditions are terrible. We persistence hunted. We chased prey not by being faster, but by refusing to stop chasing until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. That trait is still in you. All of you." "How do we develop it?" Private Mingyu asked. "You already are. Every time you attempt that climbing wall and fail, you are training your mind to ignore failure. Every time you run until your legs burn and then run further, you are teaching your body that limits are negotiable. Every time you face something that seems impossible and try it anyway, you are becoming more human in the way the Coalition needs to understand." Vorn stepped forward, his massive frame towering over the humans. "I want to add something. When I first met Sergeant Kim, I mocked him. I called humans fragile, weak. I was measuring him by Thule standards. I was wrong. Not because humans are secretly as strong as Thule. They are not. Humans are weak by our standards. But humans do not fight by our standards. They fight by human standards. And by those standards, they are terrifying. The recruits looked surprised. Sika clicked in agreement. The sergeant lifted a Scorvax. The impossible is simply another challenge to humans. Other species have limits, and stop. Humans have limits, and argue with them. Keth's voice was like wind chimes in the quiet room. I have studied human history while training this unit. You are a species of survivors. You evolved on a planet that tried to kill you constantly. Predators, disease, climate extremes, scarcity. You survived all of it, not by being the strongest or fastest, but by being too stubborn to die. That stubbornness is now a military asset. Use it. Taeyong dismissed the recruits for evening meal. As they filed out, he noticed Private Jiho limping slightly, his hands bandaged from repeated falls on the climbing wall. The private saw him looking and straightened, trying to hide the limp. You do not have to hide injuries here, Taeyong said. Jiho held out his bandaged hands. Taeyong examined them carefully. 23, Sergeant. I will get it tomorrow. Why do you keep trying? The test does not require you to complete the climb. Just to attempt it with maximum effort. Jiho met his eyes. Because Thule soldiers climb it easily. I will not be the human who cannot do what an alien does. I will find a way. Taeyong nodded slowly. That attitude will take you far. But remember, you do not need to climb it like a Thule. Find the human way. Use different techniques. Thule rely on arm strength. Humans have better grip endurance and leg drive. Yes, Sergeant. Jiho saluted and left, already thinking about new approaches. Hana joined Taeyong as he watched the recruit leave. You are building something important here. These humans will spread across the coalition. They will change how the galaxy sees us. That is what concerns me. What if we fail? What if we prove the skeptics right? Then we try again. That is what humans do. Hana smiled. You know the most interesting thing I have learned studying human-alien integration? The aliens are changing too. Vorn uses human persistence techniques now. Sika has started distance running to build endurance. Keth meditates using methods he learned from you. We are not just proving humans can fit into coalition military. We are improving how the coalition military operates. Over the following months, Integration Unit 1 deployed on 7 missions. Each mission added to the growing understanding of human capabilities. A hostage rescue where human negotiators maintained communication for 60 hours straight, outlasting the criminals' will to hold out. A defensive operation where human soldiers held a position for 3 days without sleep, something the planners had said was biologically impossible. A deep space repair mission where humans worked in hard radiation because their DNA repair mechanisms could handle short-term exposure better than most species. The reports accumulated. The data grew. And slowly, coalition doctrine began to change. A year after Taeyong lifted the Scorvax, he returned to the Blackstone Canyons. Not for combat this time, but for a ceremony. The coalition was establishing a training center there, focused on persistence and endurance training. They were calling it the Kim Center, named for the sergeant who had shown them what was possible. Taeyong stood at the edge of the burrow where it had all happened. The hole was sealed now, filled with reinforced concrete. A memorial plaque marked the spot. It read simply, "Here, Sergeant Taeyong Kim demonstrated that human limitations exist only until humans decide they do not. First documented case of a human lifting a Scorvax Alpha. 20 tons. 18 seconds. Impossible. Ath. You are famous," Forn said, standing beside him. The big Thule had become a close friend over the year. Across 12 systems, soldiers know your name. The human who refused to accept impossible. I was just doing my job. That is what makes it meaningful. You did not try to be a hero. You just tried to save a squad member's equipment. The heroism was accidental. That makes it more impressive, not less. Keth and Sika joined them at the memorial. Keth placed a crystalline flower at the base, a Velnar tradition for honoring significant moments. Sika simply stood at attention, mandibles still in respect. The new recruits arrive tomorrow, Keth said. 50 humans this time. They have been trained on Earth specifically for coalition integration. All of them requested assignment to your unit. 50 is too many for one unit, Taeyang said. Yes. Which is why you are being promoted to lieutenant. You will command 3 squads. Other human officers are being trained for additional units. Within 5 years, the coalition projects that 10% of combat personnel will be human integrated teams. Taeyang processed this. 10%. Thousands of humans and aliens working together, learning from each other, becoming stronger together. All because he had refused to watch a piece of equipment get dragged into a hole. Do you regret it? Sika asked suddenly. That moment? The pain you endured? The responsibility it created? Taeyang thought about it. He thought about his torn muscles, the months of recovery, the weight of expectation, the pressure of representing an entire species. No, he said finally, because I learned something that day. I learned that humans are capable of more than we think. I learned that aliens are willing to change their minds when shown evidence. I learned that different strengths working together create something better than any single approach. He turned to his squad, his friends. I learned that we are stronger together. All of us. Humans and Thule and Krovan and Velnar. We are better as a coalition when we use all our strengths instead of dismissing the ones we do not understand. Vorn rumbled his deep laugh. You know what I learned that day? I learned not to bet against humans. You are small and weak and fragile, and you are absolutely terrifying because you refuse to let those facts stop you. They stood together as the sun set over the Blackstone Canyons. 4 soldiers from 4 different worlds, united by mutual respect and shared experience. Below them, sealed in concrete, was the burrow where everything had changed. Somewhere in the galaxy, a young human was reading reports about Sergeant Taeyang Kim and deciding to join the coalition military. Somewhere, an alien officer was reconsidering human assignments. Somewhere, humans and aliens were learning to work together in ways both species were still discovering. Taeyang Kim had not known what he was starting when he gripped the underside of a Scorvax and lifted. He had just been doing what needed doing. Being human. Refusing to accept impossible. And that, it turned out, was exactly what the galaxy needed. The next morning, Taeyang stood before 50 new recruits. They looked at him with hope and determination. They had come to learn. They had come to prove themselves. They had come to show the galaxy what humans could do. Welcome, he said simply. You have been told that humans are weak. That we are too fragile for combat. That we do not measure up to alien species standards. He paused, looking at each face. Those statements are true. By most measurements, we do not measure up, but measurements are not the full story. I am going to teach you something more important than how to pass alien tests. I am going to teach you how to be excellently human, how to persist when others quit, how to endure when conditions are terrible, how to accomplish what everyone says is impossible. He smiled. They called us weak. They were not entirely wrong, but they learned that weakness is not the opposite of strength. It is just a different kind of strength that they had not learned to measure yet. Let me show you what I mean. And as the training began, as humans and aliens learned together, as the galaxy slowly realized that Earth's children were more than they seemed, Taeyang thought about his grandfather's words one final time. Strength is not about what you can lift when everything is easy. It is about what you refuse to put down when everything is hard. Humanity had refused to put down its place in the stars. And the stars were finally beginning to understand why that mattered.